Crime, Wine, and Chaos contains adult language and graphic content. Listener discretion is advised.
If the house is a rockin', don't bother knocking, Chaos.
Ooh,
Come on in. I'm Naomi.
good one. I'm Amber, and this is Crime, Wine, and Chaos. It's so weird, like you're in my brain because, like,
Why?
just a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, Michael and I watched a documentary on Stevie Ray Vaughan. It was
I
very
know we
good.
talked about that.
Okay.
We were talking about
Very
that you watched
sad.
that.
Yeah.
It is a very sad story.
Yeah.
He was a pretty amazing musician.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Used to listen to a lot of Stevie Ray Vaughan in the house back in the different life of mine. Different life.
Okay. Yeah.
Musicians, you know?
For sure. Yep. For sure. What's going on?
Sister, like, the world is either completely on fire, completely underwater, or being bombed to oblivion. I'm just, like, by the time this episode airs, like, I'm sure like a chunk of America won't even remember, but like it's right now as we're recording this, I'm still like watching videos come across my feed of like the unimaginable and insane amounts of devastation going on through like huge chunks of Appalachia after Hurricane Helene. And it's mind blowing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is so bad. Like it's so bad. So I'm feeling a little bummed. I'm sorry. I'm bringing the bummer to the table again, but I'm just like, I mean, it is so bad. And like, we had this conversation because you were over here the other night with Michael having dinner and I was saying something about it. And Michael literally like wide-eyed looked at me like, what are you even talking about? There was like a hurricane or what? And it's like, he listens to the news like all day, every day. And he didn't know any of this because they're like not reporting like the full reality of what is happening on the ground down there. It's crazy.
Ugh.
It's crazy.
Devastating. Yeah.
Like entire cities or like towns just like wiped off the map, like entire neighborhoods just gone, literally just replaced by like a sea of sand and silt and rock. And just like there was nothing there ever before except for sand and silt and rock. It's crazy.
Ugh.
It's crazy.
And you said Aaron's okay.
Aaron's okay.
We also have Noelle over there. Noelle,
we do.
let us know if you're okay.
Let us know if everyone's okay. We know that Florida got hit hard. Like a bunch of the whole like west coast of Florida was just like hammered. Like, you know, and actually people keep talking about Tennessee and North Carolina, like West North Carolina. What I saw was that the hurricane didn't actually lose its category 4 rating until it got to Lake Erie.
Oh my God.
So it went through Ohio, like West, like Virginia, not West Virginia, but like West, the state of Virginia, right? Like, so Georgia got some of it. Like it went all the way up. So like, it's really, it's bad. So that's where I'm at. That's how I'm doing today.
Great.
How are you doing, sister?
I'm doing okay. Thank you for asking. You know, I don't have a whole lot to report. Just on my last week of work before vacation that I am looking forward to. I hope to just completely disengage from all the things, if that's possible, and just vibe, you know?
I love that for you. I'll hold down the fort.
I know you will.
You
guys, you're in good hands. You're in good hands. God.
Excellent. Are you drinking anything
you know what?
Water
I'm
today?
still drinking water. I still have some lingering, not feeling great.
Oh,
so I'm just taking it easy, you know?
Good. You know what? Good. You're taking care of you.
Thank you.
We always support taking care of our health.
That's
first
right.
and foremost. 100%.
That's right. Honey P.
Your turn to tell us a crime.
Okay. I'm going to tell you one.
Okay.
Okay. First, I have to ask, would you ever live?
Would you rather or would you ever?
This is a would you ever. I have, it's a 2-parter.
Okay.
Would you ever live on a street called Elm Street? And or would you ever live on the 13th floor of an apartment or condo complex?
I might live on Elm Street. I feel some kind of way about the 13th floor. I know that technically speaking, it's still the 13th floor, even if you call it the 14th floor.
Which, okay, have you ever really thought about how sort of odd it is that all hotels do that? That superstition is enough for a business to modify to that extent?
Like that's wild, right?
It is wild.
Like that's how deep that runs.
Yeah.
I don't think all buildings do that. I don't even think all hotels do that, but a lot of them do. I don't know.
A lot of them do.
I wonder if there's like a period of time where that shifted. Like if there's like a, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Where like the more modern ones just don't do that. I don't know.
I don't know either. Okay, so you might live on an Elm Street then.
Maybe.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you about an Elm Street in Salida, California. We are going to May 20th, 1990.
Where's Salida, California?
I don't know. Let's look it up.
Okay. Whoa, sorry. I know you're like mad. Like, I don't know. I actually, if I've never heard of the town, like I always like look it up when I'm writing it so that I get a visual sense of like where it is.
I think I do.
That's how my brain like I have to know. Like, where is this?
Oh, you know what? I feel like I did that and it's already escaped my brain. Oh, that's actually in my story. It's part of Modesto.
I don't know what that is. That like Central California or like Northern California?
It's Southern California.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Oof, we good? Okay. So
we're good. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yep.
I really appreciate it.
No problem. So at around 1:30 a.m., a 911 call comes in from a neighbor who said that they had witnessed a fight at a residence on Elm Street and that there was a man on the sidewalk in front of one of the houses and he wasn't moving.
Like laying on the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh.
So officers arrive and the man on the sidewalk has a mask on the ground sort of between his legs. And when officers go inside of the home, there are 3 more bodies inside.
You said this was like in May.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. There were no lights on in the house, and there was blood everywhere.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. The white male on the sidewalk was pronounced dead on the scene, and inside the house, there were 2 bodies in the kitchen and 1 in the living room. All of the victims inside had been bludgeoned, as well as having had their throats slit.
Oh my God. It's so fucking brutal.
Brutal. They identified 3 of the victims with the IDs that they had on them. One of the victims was, this is a terrible name, but a sweet man, Franklin Raper.
Okay.
51 years old. Richard Ritchie, 25 years old.
Was his middle name Richard too?
I hope so. Or just like Rick. Rick Richards.
Richie Rick Richards.
Mm-hmm. And Dennis Caldwell, who was 35 years old. The 4th victim was a female, and she didn't have any ID on her. She looked to be about 22 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Her injury to her neck was so deep that she was almost decapitated.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So they don't initially know how these people even know each other because it seemed to be the age range seemed odd for it to be like a group of friends, right?
Uh-huh.
And it also didn't seem like a home invasion or robbery because nothing was stolen and because the crimes, like the killings were so brutal that didn't seem to be the motivator.
Did any of these 4 dead bodies actually live in that house?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So they also find the same kind of camouflage mask that was between the legs of the victim on the sidewalk in the front grass. They can
camouflage mask?
Yeah, like a ski mask in like a camouflage.
Oh, like a balaclava.
Sure. Is that a ski mask?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so they find another one in the grass. They can visibly see hair attached to the mask found in the grass, so that's bagged for evidence. They could also see footprints from the yard out to the street going eastbound towards the railroad tracks.
Mm.
They also found a bat, which that's so fucking brutal. A baseball bat.
Know.
Yeah. The only thing worse is a hammer.
I know.
Mm-hmm. and a knife and a knife sheath that had been discarded.
Like on the way to the railroad track?
Mm-hmm. Like they're just tossing them.
As they go? Like, okay.
Yeah. So Salida is just north of Modesto. There it is.
There it is.
And at the time, it was a small farming community. So a quadruple homicide fucking shook the neighborhood.
Right.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
No.
So this, of course, like a lot of people were coming out of their homes and standing outside of the house to be looky-loos because it was like a big deal. And one woman went up to an officer at the scene and claimed that she was there when it happened and she was the sole survivor. Mm-hmm.
Oh, she's just now coming out to say something?
This is like while they're like shortly after they've responded, they've just taped off the crime scene and a woman goes up to an officer and is like, I was a sole survivor and they didn't know I was there. They missed me. Right.
Okay.
So this one survivor was Donna Alvarez. Donna said that this was her first time ever being at this residence. She said that she was unhoused and didn't have anywhere to go. And she went to that residence with Richard Ritchie, who was one of the victims, and a guy that she knew. It was Franklin Raper's house, and he told Donna that she could stay the night. So she was sleeping in one of the back bedrooms and woke up to screaming. She said it was dark and she had no idea what was going on, but it obviously sounded really bad. And so she peeked out the bedroom door and saw people with camouflage masks on. She said that one of them removed their mask briefly and she was able to get a look at him. And she described him as a white guy, but he had afro type of hair. She managed to get to the garage and hide under a pile of laundry that was on the garage floor.
Oh.
Uh-huh. I know. It just gives me the chills.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
Become laundry.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. She said that she could still hear everything that was going on inside the house, but eventually it went quiet. And so she was able to slip under the garage door, which was broken and just like partially opened, and run to a neighbor's house. I can't.
This is a horror movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Then a woman who was also standing outside of the crime scene, like tape, approaches one of the officers and says that her daughter has been unaccounted for and that she was afraid that she might be the unidentified female inside.
Oh, no.
I know. They ask her for a description, and she says that her daughter is really small with dark hair, and she has a small tattoo. So she pulls out a photograph of her daughter, Darlene Paris, and when police look at the photo, they know right away that Darlene is the unidentified female victim.
Oh.
I know. Really small. That's just like little peanut. So Franklin Raper's daughter, Kimberly, remembers getting this phone call around 2 a.m. from her brother, letting her know that their dad had passed away.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah, no shit. Her son, Zachary, so Franklin's grandson, woke up to the sound of his mom sobbing, and that's when he learned that his grandpa, who he called Papa Red, had been killed. I know. Papa Red. Franklin's other daughter, Pam, says that he was always the protector of everyone in his family and people outside of his family who he referred to as his people. I know. Papa Red is a good person.
Yeah.
He always wanted to bring people into the house that didn't have anywhere else to go.
Oh, me too, Papa. Me too.
I know. Detectives learn that Franklin was having issues with someone from a car repair shop in Salida, and Zachary even remembers his mom talking to her dad on the phone just weeks before he died, and she was telling him to just move out of the area and come and stay with her.
No, it was that bad.
Yeah. So this guy from the repair shop and Franklin had been in an ongoing dispute for about a year, even having one altercation that turned physical.
Jesus. Over car repairs?
I guess. Yeah.
That's wild.
Over car repairs? Yeah. There was also an instance when Franklin showed up to the repair shop with one of his friends and was doing donuts in the parking lot when his car died. And the guy inside the shop came out and beat Franklin with a bat.
Was he doing donuts I don't understand that story.
That's a disproportionate response.
Why was he doing donuts?
It was his version of a middle finger.
That's what I kind of gathered.
Like, I'm making my presence known.
Okay. So these two were... Okay.
Yeah.
So Franklin was antagonizing. This guy had disproportionate responses to the antagonization.
Correct. So when his daughter Kimberly learned about this, she was obviously very worried. And when she tried to ask her dad who these guys were, Franklin said they were just a bunch of punks. So detectives obviously want to talk to this auto shop guy.
Yeah.
So they talk to this guy and ask him if he's heard of the quadruple homicide. And he's like, yeah, everyone knows about that. And detectives ask him if he had anything to do with it. And he admits that he did not like Franklin and he didn't get along with him. But there is no way that he would kill somebody. I mean, he did hit him with a bat. That could have killed him.
Yeah.
Yeah. He said that he was at home with his wife in bed at the time of the murders, and his wife and kids were interviewed and able to confirm that this was true.
Okay. We're going to find out that this is random, and that's so much fucking worse.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
So at this time, Franklin's grandson, Zachary, was in 5th grade. And at the time when Darlene's name is released, he learns that her younger half-sister was one of his classmates.
Oh.
Yeah.
Small town.
Small town, and there's just so much fear just running through the community at this time.
Yeah.
Nobody has any idea who did this. So detectives interview Franklin's family, and they learn from his son that his dad had asked him if he could borrow a gun. And his son asked him why he needed a gun. And Franklin said, there is this guy, Jason LaMarche, and I'm afraid of him.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Kimberly says Jason LaMarche was a bully. There's going to be a lot of names, a lot more names. Okay.
Okay.
At one point, Jason LaMarche had stolen Franklin's car and set it on fire. He broke his collarbone and threatened to kill him.
Just because he's a bully? I don't understand. These are like grown old men, right?
Well, Jason LaMarche isn't a grown old man. He's like in his 20s.
Okay. And he's bullying an old man.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, keep going.
Okay. So this was the incident that Kimberly was discussing with her dad on the phone when she was asking him to move in with her.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Franklin said that he had been in that town a lot longer than this fucking LaMarche, and he wasn't going to be run out of town. The last time Kimberly saw her dad, he told her, "Don't worry about me. I will be okay." So Jason LaMarche did have arrest records, and so police are able to pull his mugshot of him, and they provide the photo lineup to Donna, who hid under the laundry, and she immediately becomes hysterical and pointed to Jason LaMarche.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And he is a white guy with an afro.
Okay.
They're able to get in contact with LaMarche's girlfriend, Michelle. She said that she didn't know where he was.
So she's not giving him an alibi.
Mm-mm. They also learned that Michelle's sister, Konya Miller, was living in the home where the murders took place, but she had been staying with her mom that night.
She lived with Franklin?
Yes. I get the feeling that Franklin's house was just like anybody.
Kind of an open door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you need a place to crash. So they're able to determine that Konya Miller had nothing to do with any of this or had knowledge of the murders. And she was extremely upset when she learned what happened in the home that she was living in. That's got to be unsettling too, to know that.
But there was 2 guys.
Mm-hmm. Oh, or more.
Or more.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say at least 2, because definitely not one person like did that to 4 people, especially 3 men.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So they ask her if she knows Jason LaMarche, and she says that she does know him, that he's dating her sister, and she does not like him.
Oh.
She said that he hung out with a group that was real bad news.
I bet.
Mm-hmm. They were all living in some abandoned shack in Salida, and the group calls themselves...
Oh, no. Stop it. Stop it. They call...
Yep. Here we go. Mhm.
Okay, sister. Tell me what they call themselves.
They call themselves the Cause.
Okay, how do they spell that? Is that like CAWS, like caca, or is that like
like because without the BE?
like rebel without a cause?
Exactly. Yep. And they refer to their abandoned shack and property as camp.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So Franklin Raper used to live at the camp. And then when he decided that he needed to get away from those people at the camp, he went to this house on Elm Street. So police start...
Wait. So does Franklin like rent this house on Elm Street?
I think it was always his house, and he was just part of the Cause for a brief period of time, and then was like, fuck this, I'm out of here. You guys are psycho.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay. Does that satisfy you?
I mean, okay.
Okay. So police start talking to neighbors around the camp, and they learned that a lot of people were scared to talk and said they wanted nothing to do with that place or the people in it.
Oh.
Detectives learned that it was common for an armed guard to be walking the perimeter of the camp.
Because Salida is such a dangerous place that they need to arm the perimeter.
They're arming the perimeter. Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, there were also rumors of satanic rituals that took place inside.
Oh, okay. All right. I mean, okay.
It's the 90s.
It's right. It's 1990, right?
It's 1990. Yep.
It's like, okay.
Mm-hmm. So detectives decide they're going to go to the camp and talk to the Cause and find out what they were doing the night of the murders.
I'm sorry. I just can't get the other spelling out of my head when you say it now. So I just...
That one? Mm-hmm. So they go to the camp, which is about half an acre, and there's a 2-bedroom shack thing on there. And when they get there, nobody's there. There was a clothesline in the front of the house, and hanging on the clothesline was a bunch of camo gear. Then a man named Gerald Cruz comes walking up the property and starts talking to detectives.
Like he just emerged from the forest? Or like... Because there was no one there.
I think he was there. He's the perimeter guy.
Oh, okay.
And then the fog lifts, and standing there is Gerald. He emerges from the forest. God, you're kind of an ornery little shit today, aren't you?
Sorry.
Okay.
Something about this story.
Well, these people suck.
Yeah.
Okay, so apparently Gerald Cruz was the leader of the Cause. The leader of the Cause.
Totally did that. These fucking guys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So they asked him if he heard about the quadruple homicide, and he was like, nope, never heard of it.
In this tiny town where everybody's heard about it.
Sure.
Because it's like the biggest thing that's ever happened in this town.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So they asked him if he knows where Jason was, and Gerald pointed to a trailer on the property and said, that is where Jason stays, but he isn't home right now. So detectives decide that they need to get a search warrant, but also to keep an eye on the camp while this is happening so they don't try and, hide
shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They get their warrant. They return to the camp. Inside, they find a shit ton of illegal weapons, bomb-making materials.
Mm-hmm.
They find a book that includes all of the members of the Cause. They had all cut their fingers and put bloody fingerprints in the book. And each member also had a diary that they kept. And Gerald would read these diaries.
Okay, what kind of militia / cult are we doing here?
Well, it gets worse.
Oh, God.
Then they find this thing called the Wheel of Punishment. And apparently, Gerald would use this when one of his members did something wrong. They would have to take the wheel and throw it in the air, and wherever their thumb landed, that would be the punishment they got.
Wherever their thumb landed?
Like, it doesn't have a spinner. It's like, imagine a frisbee that you're throwing up and catching. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Uh-huh. On the wheel were things like withholding food, withholding clothing, sleeping outside on the concrete, forced sodomy. Yeah.
That's
They also found receipts for a knife that was purchased along with camouflage masks. Then Jason's girlfriend, Michelle Evans, is arrested. They learn, this is where there's a lot of names, that
Okay.
Michelle is good friends with David Beck, who is also a member of the cause. So Gerald, Jason, and David are the main guys at the camp.
mm-hmm.
Okay. David Beck is also arrested and brought in. So Michelle and David, they're not talking. They're like, we're not going to give you any information. So detectives decide to put them in the same interview room. And as soon as they see each other, Michelle starts talking in a hushed voice. And David Beck is using hand motions to try to get her to shut the fuck up, but she just keeps on talking. Why do people think they're in a private place when they're at a police department?
I don't know.
Oh, good. We can talk in private. So, I mean, are you fucking dumb?
Well, obviously. I'm trying to figure out why they arrested these two.
It didn't really say.
Okay.
I think they found enough evidence in their search and they still can't find Jason.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. So they separate them again. And after about an hour of questioning Michelle, she finally cracks. She said the night before the murders, they had a bonfire at the camp and they were all getting hyped about going to kill Franklin Raper, who was the target. Everyone else at Franklin's house was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah. She said Franklin used to be friends with the camp people, but he didn't like what was happening there. He didn't like the punishment wheel or Gerald Cruz. Did I say Gerard earlier?
Gerald. You said Gerald. You've said it a few different ways.
Yep.
Let's just call him Big G.
Big J. So he didn't like the punishment wheel or how Big G was treating people.
Yeah.
So when he left, he tried to get other people to leave with him. And other victims at Franklin's house that night were some of the other people that he was able to convince to leave. And they had started their own healthy group of friends, which pissed Big G off.
Well, yeah, because he's a cult leader.
Mm-hmm.
He's a militia cult leader that just had defects. And, you know, that's what cults do when you leave and take people with you.
Big G is nasty, too.
I bet.
Yeah. Ugh. So before heading over to commit the murders, Big G gave everyone their assignments, including which window or door they would go through. They all came in like a SWAT team into this house.
How many?
4. Well, technically 3 went in. Michelle drove them over to the house on Elm Street and parked near the railroad tracks. First, Michelle went in alone at first to get kind of the lay of the land, which wasn't unusual because her sister lived there. She wasn't there that night, but... Mm-hmm.
If her sister had been there that night, would she...
I hope not. I hope she was also checking for that, you know?
Yeah.
And so then Michelle was able to go into a bedroom and open a window, which was the cue for her friends outside. Then one of the guys outside flipped the breaker to the house, turning off all the lights. And then they all went through multiple entries like fucking ninjas and started attacking.
Oh my God.
That is so terrifying. Michelle then went outside and waited in the car until it was over. She provided all of the names of the people who were there. It was David Beck, Ricky Richard Vieira, which is different than Richie Richard, who was one of the victims, Big G, Ron Willie, and Jason LaMarche. Okay, so 5.
Fuck.
Mm-hmm. Everyone was arrested except for Jason, who they couldn't find.
This motherfucker.
Mm-hmm. Jason had gotten a ride from a woman who I believe he knew somehow, like they were acquaintances, and went to Oregon. And on the drive up, he tells this woman that he was involved in the quadruple homicide. So she's in the car with this guy and freaked the fuck out, but she plays it cool.
Holy shit. It's another one of those.
Uh-huh. And when they get to Pendleton, Oregon, they get a motel room and she finds a payphone and calls the police. So scary.
I have no words. Like, I can't
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he's apprehended at the motel. In court, all 5 of them were joking around and acting giddy.
What?
Jason LaMarche and Ron Willey were both found guilty of 4 counts of second-degree murder, and both were sentenced to 62 years. Rick Vieira, David Beck, and Big G were all sentenced to death and are currently on death row at San Quentin.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do they determine the difference?
I don't know. I don't know.
They must have dug in on the details of who did what to who.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Michelle Evans pled guilty to accessory to murder and was sentenced to 1 year. She served
1 year?
Mm-hmm. She served 6 months and was released.
Oh, honey, I hope she figured some shit out.
Mm-hmm. That's the quadruple homicide on Elm Street.
Sister.
I know. Fucking spooky.
That is...
To just be hanging out in your house and all of a sudden all these people are coming in with bats and...
full, camo and shit.
Mm-hmm.
The lights out.
Oh my God. Oh God. Mm-mm.
Also, I was thinking about when you said that, there was this quadruple murder and it rocked this town, because I'm I think that would be true anywhere that happened.
Oh, yeah.
This is the kind of thing that's this is actually not normal. This isn't happening all the time all over the place. This is...
My God. And Donna under the laundry in the garage.
Under the laundry!
I would be terrified.
But thank God she was there and she got a peek at somebody.
I know. Oh, God.
They just left all this evidence.
Yeah, they were fucking sloppy.
What the fuck?
No. Chilling.
You know what? That's the danger of groupthink. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
This is why you should always vet any group you want to join. Hardcore vet that shit before you sign up to be a part of it.
Except the Chaos Kids Club. We're a safe space.
We are a safe space.
Mm-hmm. We like individualized thinking here.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. We love you just the way you are.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to conform. There's no wheel of punishment here.
No.
Well, sister, are you ready for some chaos then?
Always.
Okay. So Brian Bethel was a news reporter living in Abilene, Texas in the 90s, writing for the local paper there. He was part of a listserv for ghost-related things. So this was those early days of the internet and email when conversations happened on message boards and email groups.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it was 1996, and Brian sent out an email to the Ghost-Discuss listserv that he belonged to about an encounter he had that left him deeply disturbed. And here is what he wrote to his friends and pals or whatever on this ghost discussion listserv.
I already have a quick question.
Okay.
You said he's a journalist/reporter.
Uh-huh.
But he is is he into ghosty things as a hobby?
I think he's, yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Why is he on a ghosty listserv? Okay.
Yeah, he's on ghosty things as a hobby. So yeah,
okay.
So, you used to sign up for a listserv. And so you email ghost-discuss at whatever.net or whatever,
Gotcha.
right? And it
Okay.
would go out to everybody who is subscribed to be a part of that group, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is what he sent to his friends or whatever. Okay. This is straight quote of what he wrote. So there's a little bit of flair to it because he's a writer. He's a reporter, right? So I'm just going to read it verbatim.
Perfect.
My internet service provider used to have offices in a shopping center before they moved to their comparatively lush accommodations elsewhere. There was a drop box at that original location. The monthly bill was due, and thus there, but for the grace of the net, I went. It was about 9:30 p.m. Okay, side note. This is the early 90s. People are not paying bills online.
Right.
We're still going places and physically paying bills. Okay.
Yeah,
So
right,
it was
checks.
about 9. You remember that.
Mhm.
So it was about 9:30 p.m. when I left from my relatively isolated apartments. It's about 10 to 15 minutes or so to downtown. Abilene has a population of about 110,000. Right next to Camelot Communications' old location is a $1.50 movie theater. At the time, the place was featuring that masterwork of modern film, Mortal Kombat. I drove by the theater on the way to the center proper and pulled into an empty parking space. Using the glow of the marquee to write out my check, I was startled to hear a knock on the driver's side window of my car. I looked over and saw 2 children staring at me from the street. Mm-mm. I need to describe them with the one feature, you can guess what it was, that I didn't realize until about halfway through the conversation, cleverly omitted. Both appeared to be in that semi-mystical stage of life children get into when you can't exactly tell their age. Both were boys, and my initial impression is that they were somewhere between 10 and 14. Boy number 1 was the spokesman. Boy number 2 didn't speak during the entire conversation, at least not in words. Boy number 1 was slightly taller than his companion, wearing a pullover hooded shirt with a sort of gray checked pattern and jeans. I couldn't see his shoes. His skin was olive-colored and had curly, medium-length brown hair. He exuded an air of quiet confidence. Boy number 2 had pale skin with a trace of freckles. His primary characteristic seemed to be looking around nervously. He was dressed in a similar manner to his companion, but his pullover was a light green color. His hair was a sort of pale orange. They didn't appear to be related, at least directly. Mm-hmm. Oh, great, I thought. They're going to hit me up for money. And then the air changed. I've explained this before, but for the benefit of my new lurkers out there, right before I experience something strange, there's a change in perception that comes about, which I describe in the above manner. It's basically enough time to know it's too late. So there I was, filling out a check in my car, which was still running, and in a sudden panic over the appearance of 2 little boys. I was confused, but an overwhelming sense of fear and unearthliness rushed in nonetheless. The spokesman smiled, and the sight, for some inexplicable reason, chilled my blood. I could feel fight or flight responses kicking in. Something I knew instinctually was not right, but I didn't know what it could possibly be. I rolled down the window very, very slightly and asked, "Yes?" The spokesman smiled again, broader this time. His teeth were very, very white. "Hey, mister, what's up? We have a problem," he said. His voice was that of a young man, but his diction, quiet, calm, and something I still couldn't put my finger on, made my desire to flee even greater. "You see, my friend and I want to see the films, but we forgot our money," he continued. "We need to go to our house to get it. Want to help us out?" Mm-mm. Okay. Journalists are required to talk to lots of people, and that includes children. I've seen and spoken to lots of them. Here's how that usually goes. Mister, can I see that camera? I won't break it or anything, I promise. My dad has a camera, and he lets me hold it sometimes, I guess. And I took a picture of my dog. It wasn't very good because I got my finger in the way, and add in some feet shuffling and or body swaying, and you've got a typical kid talking to a stranger. In short, they're usually apologetic. People generally teach children that when they talk to adults, they're usually bothering them for one reason or another, and they should at least be polite. This kid was in no way fitting the mold. His command of language is incredible, and he showed no signs of fear. He spoke as if my help was a foregone conclusion. Oh. When he grinned, it was as if he was trying to say, "I know something, and you're not going to like it, but the only way you're going to find out what it is will be to do what I say." Well, was the best reply I could offer. Now, here's where it starts to get strange. The quiet companion looked at the spokesman with a mixture of confusion and guilt on his face. He seemed in some ways shocked, not with his friend's brisk manner, but that I didn't just immediately open the door. He eyed me nervously. The spokesman seemed a bit perturbed too. I still was registering something wrong with both. "Come on, mister," the spokesman said again, smooth as silk. Mm-hmm. "Car salesman could learn something from this kid. Now, we just want to go to our house, and we're just 2 little boys." That really scared me. Something in the tone and diction again sent off alarm bells. My mind was frantically trying to process what it was perceiving about the 2 figures that was wrong. Was all I could manage. I felt myself digging my fingernails into the steering wheel. "What movie were you going to see?" I asked finally. "Mortal Kombat, of course," the spokesman said. The silent one nodded in affirmation, standing a few paces behind. "Oh," I said. I stole a quick glance at the marquee and at the clock in my car. Mortal Kombat had been playing for an hour, the last showing of the evening. The silent one looked increasingly nervous. I think he saw my glances and suspected that I might be detecting something was not above board. Come on, mister, let us in. We can't get in your car until you do, the spokesman said smoothly. Just let us in, and we'll be gone before you know it. We'll go to our mother's house.
Oh, God.
We locked eyes. To my horror, I realized my hand had strayed toward the door lock, which was engaged, and was in the process of opening it. I pulled it away, probably a bit too violently, but it did force me to look away from the children. I turned back, I offered weakly, and then my mind snapped into sharp focus. For the first time, I noticed their eyes.
Mm-mm.
They were coal black. Mm-mm. No pupil, no iris, just two staring orbs reflecting the red and white light of the marquee.
Nope. No. This is like fucking Children of the Corn. No.
At that point, I know my expression betrayed me. The silent one had a look of horror on his face in combination that seemed to indicate A, the impossible had just happened, and B, we've been found out. The spokesman, on the other hand, wore a mask of anger. His eyes glittered brightly in the half-light. Come on, mister, he said. We won't hurt you. You have to let us in. We don't have a gun. That last statement scared the living hell out of me because at that point, by his tone, he was plainly saying, we don't need a gun.
Mm-hmm.
He noticed my hand shooting down toward the gear shift. The spokesman's final words contained an anger that was complete and whole and yet contained in some respects a tone of panic. We can't come in unless you tell us it's okay. Let us in.
No. God, no.
I ripped the car into reverse. Thank goodness no one was coming up behind me and tore out of the parking lot. I noticed the boys in my peripheral vision and I stole a quick glance back. They were gone. The sidewalk by the theater was deserted.
Mm-mm.
I drove home in a heightened state of panic. Had anyone attempted to stop me, I would have run on through and faced the consequences later. I bolted into my house, scanning all around, including the sky. What did I see? Maybe nothing more than some kids looking for a ride. And some really funky contacts. Yeah, right. A friend suggested they were vampires, what with the old let us in bit, and my compelled response to open the door. But that and the we'll go see our mother thing, I'm still not sure what they are. But here's an epilogue I find chilling. I talk about Chad a lot. He's still my best friend, my best ghost hunting companion, and an all-around cool guy. He recently moved to Amarillo, but at the time this happened, he was still living in San Angelo of Rampage fame. I called him and talked to him briefly. He had two female friends with him at the time, both professing some type of psychic ability. I started telling him the story, leaving out the part about the black eyes. For the kicker, one of the women, we were on a speakerphone, stopped me. These children had black eyes, right? She asked. I mean, all black eyes? Yeah, I said. I was a bit taken aback. She said, one night last week, I had a dream about children with black eyes. They were outside my house wanting to be let in, but there was something wrong with them. It took me a while to realize it was the eyes. I hadn't even gotten as far as them wanting to come in.
Mm-mm.
What did you do? I asked. I kept the doors and windows locked, she said. I knew if they came in, they would kill me. She paused. And they would have killed you too if you had let them into your car.
Oh my God. Full body chills. I hate this so much. Keep going.
So we're talking about black-eyed kids today.
Mm-hmm. Not to be confused with the black-eyed peas.
Right. Very different.
Mm-hmm.
Very different things. So in a subsequent email in this same discussion group, Brian would relay a conversation that he and two others had online together in a chat room where a good friend of his in Portland, Oregon, relayed a story of an encounter that he had, and he didn't even know about Brian's story about the black-eyed kids that he'd had a run-in with. So this friend, John Northwood, this is what he wrote in this group chat.
Mm-hmm.
I was in downtown Portland, Oregon, after a seminar series on software development. I'd grabbed a bite of dinner about 10 p.m., and when I left, it was about 11-ish. I'd gotten in my car, locked and belted up, and just started the engine when someone tapped on my window. I was in an above-ground garage on the third floor, so I wasn't too freaked. Good lighting, still some people around. It was one of the guys from the conference, so I rolled down my window and asked him what was up. He wanted to ride around the block a few times as he was freaked about who was standing outside his car. I figured, so sue me, that it was some of Portland's homeless or some punker kids. So being a good Samaritan, I let him in and we took off. We drove by his car and there were 3 kids around it, 2 boys and a girl. The girl was weird, just freaky, clothes and hair and makeup, gothomatic.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 kids were, I don't know, just scary as shit. She was probably 14 or 15. The oldest boy was probably 14-ish and the youngest between 10 and 12. She looked bored and was smoking a cigarette. The 2 boys were just leaning against the car. They looked way too intense for kids. Anyway, I started itching behind my eyes, like I needed to really look at them. So like an ass, I slowed down. Big mistake. The 2 boys sauntered over and the girl stayed against the car. The oldest was on Doug's side, the guy from the seminar, and the youngest was on mine. I made sure the doors were locked. I love electronic locks. And asked why they were standing around his car. The young one said, "It's scary out there all alone and we just wanted a ride home."
Mm-mm.
The eldest one said, "You promised you'd help us out." And Doug said, "I don't even know you." By this time, I was really on edge. I felt caught between throwing up and jazzing. Adrenaline does that to me. All of a sudden, Doug said he was getting out of the car, and I told him not to. As soon as he reached for the handle, the 2 kids, I don't know how to say this right, they looked a lot older. Their faces were somewhat drawn, and their eyes were solid black, edge to edge. No pupil, no iris, nothing. Just a liquid black pool. I just about wet myself. Slapped the car into reverse and burned rubber backing about 60 feet away. They started running after the car.
Mm-mm.
So I spun around one of the support struts and we took off. I kid you not, I was convinced that if they got a hold of the car, I was going to die, and not in anything approaching a pleasant fashion. Anyway, the oldest one was at the bottom of the garage when we came out and almost made it to my side door. We'd gone down from the 3rd floor doing 30-ish, maybe 35 around the ramp. He'd beaten us down the stairs and onto the sidewalk.
Oh my God.
Anyway, we left him on the corner, and when I turned to look, nothing. He was gone. Doug just passed out. All of a sudden, the feeling of menace left. We went back about 10 minutes later. Nobody was around his car. He got out, got in his car, and drove home. He'd said that he had met the young one earlier in the evening and had said he'd take him home, had even given him a short ride in his car to the seminar and told him to wait. Apparently, though, the older brother scared him, so he felt that all bets were off.
Mm-hmm.
I was behind him about 45 feet when the feeling of menace hit again. At that moment, Doug misjudged going across an intersection at a yellow light and his car was hit by a truck. He was killed instantly.
No. Oh my God.
I gave a police report and the whole time felt really freaked out and very exposed. I got back to my car, got in, locked the door, and waited. I saw the kids again from about 2 blocks away.
No. I hate this. I hate creepy kids. What are you doing to me?
I know. These 2 stories, which started circulating on the internet sometime between 1996 and 1998, are credited as the origin of the urban legend surrounding black-eyed kids. But they would not be the only ones. Over the ensuing years, other stories would pop up of children, usually in pairs between the ages of 6 and 16, approaching adults with requests that quickly turn into demands that the children be let into their car or their home. They need a ride. They need to use the phone. They need to call their parents. They need to wait inside. Appearing on doorsteps next to cars parked or stopped at a stop sign or stoplight, hitchhiking or panhandling. They are described as pale with completely black eyes and a strange demeanor, almost a flat affect, until they are denied what they are asking for, and then they become angry and demanding.
Oh, God.
Many chalk this up to a distinctly U.S. urban legend as well, but both these claims that these stories started in the 90s and that they are only found in the U.S. are not true. Beyond the fact that reports of these encounters have allegedly also come out of Canada, but there have been reports in a town in the UK as far back as the early 80s of sightings and encounters with a black-eyed child. Cannock Chase is basically a national park in Staffordshire, England. It's managed by the Forestry Department and consists of a mix of woodland, meadows, small lakes, and the remains of early industry such as coal mining. More than half the chase, as it's called by the locals, is publicly accessible, and it has lots of reasons for visitors: museums, walking paths, trails to hike, mountain biking routes, camping, and even music festivals. It is also home to a young girl who appears at night and is said to have completely black eyes.
No.
Many people have reported encountering her, sometimes giggling and bothering would-be campers while they try to sleep, sometimes screaming and crying for help to walkers passing through the park. She is described as moving in ways that are not humanly possible. Numerous encounters with this girl have been recalled over the decades, including as recently as August of this year, 2024, when a dog walker recounted his experience during a walk through Cannock Chase one night. He described what he saw was a pale-faced little girl with completely black eyes, and that the giggling child, dressed in ragged clothing, tugged on his coat before disappearing into the trees.
Oh, God. No.
I am your real daughter, Mommy.
Oh, my
In
God.
2014.
Stop it.
In 2014, the Daily Star wrote 3 front-page stories about sightings of the black-eyed kids in the haunted pub in Staffordshire. A lot of people believe she's actually the spirit of a little girl that was murdered in the chase back in the 1960s, but of course that can't be confirmed.
Right.
And the debate about black-eyed kids is full of theories. Are they ghosts? Are they vampires? Are they aliens? Are they demons? Are they connected or related to the Men in Black in some way? Are they something else entirely? They have been blamed for causing cancer or other tragedy, and those that do allow them into their spaces. Another widely circulated story goes, in a snowy town in the middle of nowhere, Vermont, an elderly couple heard the sound of 3 loud knocks on their door. They opened the door and saw 2 children, a boy and a girl. Parents will be here soon. May we come in?
No, I hate that. That's not how children talk.
The children did not make eye contact and just stood in the doorway. The elderly couple were hesitant, but after a while, they let the boy and girl inside.
Oh, no.
The kids settled on the couch while the wife made some hot cocoa, and the husband asked them questions that went unanswered. The wife returned and noticed that her cat was scared and angry with the children. May we please use the restroom?
Animals
wife-
always know. Animals know.
always know.
Mm-hmm.
The wife looked at the kids and she finally saw them. The children's eyes were completely black. She showed them to the bathroom and returned to her husband, who was covering his face with his hand. Did you see their eyes? Then the husband shows the wife his hand full of blood from a nosebleed.
Oh, no.
The power suddenly went out. The wife headed towards the bathroom and heard the voice of one of the kids at the end of the hall. Our parents are here. The kids left the house, leaving the door wide open. The wife saw 2 men at the end of the driveway. They were very tall and slender. She waved, but they did not wave back. The 2 men and the 2 children drove off in a car together. The power then came back on a little bit later. Throughout the next week, weird things happened in the house. 3 out of 4 cats went missing, and the 4th was found dead in the pool of its own blood. The husband continued to have nosebleeds and finally went to the doctor, where he was diagnosed with a very aggressive skin cancer.
Oh, God.
A TikToker also shared a story of her own about a night when she was home alone. She was living in Georgia at the time, watching a movie, and she heard a knock on her front door. She instinctively didn't want to answer the door because it was too late for anyone to be showing up at her house, and her gut was telling her something was off. So she quietly approached the door, but before she could even say something to whoever was on the other side, she heard someone say, "Hi, ma'am, I'm here selling magazine subscriptions. Can you let me in?"
No, God, I don't like it.
This person knew she was on the other side of the door and to call her ma'am, having never seen her. She peeped through the hole and saw a boy about 12 or 13 years old wearing a hoodie. She decided to ignore him. He kept knocking but finally gave up and then went across the street and knocked on her neighbor's door. She hears the boy knock on her neighbor's door, and the woman answers and immediately screams and yells, "Honey!" calling for her husband, and slams the door shut.
Oh, fuck.
It wasn't until the next day when the woman who didn't answer her door spoke to her neighbor, who told her that the boy had completely black eyes, and as soon as she saw him and his eyes, she was consumed by feelings of fear and dread and screamed for her husband and slammed the door, basically out of instinct.
Yeah.
Like instinctively.
Mm-hmm.
Black-eyed kids have been described as harbingers of doom, portents of horrors to come. Most people believe the stories of the black-eyed kids to be nothing more than one of the very first creepypastas.
Mm-hmm.
Creepypasta before creepypasta existed. But some people believe these kids to be a very real phenomenon, whatever they are. And the consensus is do not let them in.
I fucking hate that. I hate everything about that. While you were talking, I was thinking, I wonder if that was the inspiration and or origins behind Children of the Corn or Village of the Damned. Is that what they're trying to portray as black-eyed children?
I don't think so.
Oh,
but there
okay.
is a movie that came out in the early 2000s called Don't Let Them In or something.
Oh
and
my God. I hate it so much.
Do you want to hear something creepy?
Do I? Yeah. I don't know if I can handle an Go ahead.
So I started working on this on my laptop. I've been working on and off on this story for a while. And yesterday, I think it was, before you guys came over, I had some time in the middle of the day after I cleaned and the crock pot was crocking. And I wanted to put dot the I's and the T's on this story and get my story done yesterday before we recorded today or 2 days ago. This was 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought my laptop in. I had already cleaned and everything. So I was working here at my desk. And so my laptop was actually attached to my monitor. So I was on my big monitor instead of just on my laptop. And the entire time I was working on editing this document for this story, I kept getting these weird blips on my monitor. And for a split second, my monitor would do snow. It's never done that before. I've never seen that on this monitor or any monitor before.
I hate it.
It was so weird. And I was working on a different story too. And it wasn't doing it when I was working on that story. Only when I was working on this story.
You need to burn that. Oh, you didn't print it, right?
No.
Oh, okay. Oh my God. I hate it. You need to sage your apartment. I hated that. I do not like creepy kids.
I know.
Why do you suppose it's kids? Because adults trust little kids?
Probably.
I hate that so much. Thanks.
You're welcome. BEKs. They call them BEKs for short in the biz,
In the biz?
The ghosty supernatural world biz.
Sure. The listserv. Yeah.
There too, I suppose.
Yeah. I hated that.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm fully creeped out.
You're welcome. It's still spooky season.
It's spooky season, and you really brought it. Thank you for that.
You're so welcome.
Join the club.
Please join the club. Come be a Chaos Kids Club member.
Join the club. There's no wheel of punishment.
There's no wheel of punishment.
Free thinking, free speech.
That's right, 100%. Plus, you get a bonus episode every month. The episodes that are available to everyone drop a day early for the Chaos Kids Club members. Sometimes we have virtual wine night.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
It's a good time.
But either way, you can just go sign up to join the Patreon and be a free member and still have access to all the other things that we post that aren't behind the paywall. So come join the club.
Yeah, join the club.
Write us a review. Oh, we had another review.
Yep.
We totally...
Nope. We're going to do it right now because it is so wonderful. Do you want to read this one?
It was so sweet. It was so sweet. What did she say? Okay. I got it. It's titled Amazing Laugh. It says, "Hi, me and my mom were listening to the podcast and me and my mom were listening." I just love that. They were listening together.
Too.
That's adorable.
I know.
And we heard you guys talking about her review under the name Heartless Shadow, which she wanted you to know is my big brother's old Xbox username, LOL. We love your show so much. I'm a true crime fanatic as well, and I'd love to hear you guys talk about the Ketty Cabin quadruple unsolved homicides. Keep doing this podcast. We love it. Love, Maxie. Heart.
We love you, Maxie. Heart.
Thank you, Maxie. Also, I'm pretty sure Amber covered that very early on in the very early days of the podcast.
Yes, Erica did, and it's actually episode 1.
Oh, is that the first episode?
That's the first episode, yeah.
And those episodes do still exist behind the paywall, Maxie. Sorry, the Chaos Kids Club members actually have access to the archive, which is everything prior to episode number 96.
Yeah.
Amber used to have a different co-host. It was a little bit different vibe. And when the switch happened, we made a decision together that we would just archive that. So if you're a part of the Chaos Kids Club, you also have access to all the older episodes of the show, including that story, Episode 1.
Episode 1. Well said, sister.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Maxie.
Love it.
Yes. And Heartless Shadow.
That was so sweet.
That was amazing.
I love you, sister.
I love
this
you,
was
sister.
really chaotic.
So chaotic. Goodbye.
Bye.
Crime, Wine, and Chaos is produced by 8th Direction Records. Artwork by Joshua M. Davis. Music by Paul Abner. If you would like to support the show, you can visit our Patreon page at Crime, Wine, and Chaos /Patreon. Cheers. Baklava. Yep. Yep. They all wore baklava.